Hello, I'm Llewellyn King, the host of White House Chronicle. Every year, we take a hard look at electricity on this program. We do that because electricity is so hugely important to our well-being as people, to our comfort, to the way we live. It also is a very important national issue. Electric policy is as critical as almost any other policy that comes out of Washington. One of the things you will learn in this program, which is filmed at the Edison Electric Institute's annual meeting this year in Philadelphia, is that we are moving our transportation to electric vehicles and that the electric utilities are behind this electrification of transportation, which will extend from little cars like this, actually made by Mercedes-Benz. You wouldn't think it. Promised me a Mercedes and they gave me this. No, wouldn't work, would it? But all the way up to large trucks. Ford has just announced that it's going to make a 150 that is electric. So come along with me and we will talk electricity here at the Edison Electric Institute with the people who know the most about it. Alex Santos is the CEO and founder of a company called Fortress, a very critically important company because it studies incursions into the security of the electric system, cyber warfare. Welcome to the broadcast, Alex. What should we worry about? Are we going to lose all the electricity, say, on the East Coast one day?
Chances right now are pretty low of that. That's because the utility companies have done a good job of planning and preparing for such a contingency. But we have to stay vigilant because the threat, the adversaries, more and more are turning to cyber as a weapon of choice away from conventional weapons. And our utility sector is extremely strategic. All facets, civilian and military life, depend on it. And you can bet that our adversaries know that and are planning, and some say have even attacked successfully, our grid.
The issue of cybersecurity is very difficult for reporters because nobody will tell us anything. If they're vulnerable, they won't tell us, and if they think they're secure, they won't tell us. And also the technology is very complex. How do you help utilities be more secure?
We do that by focusing. And so we focus on utilities, as you surmised, and we also focus on two things, which is the vendors and the capital assets. Cybersecurity is not a destination, it's a journey. It's a process of finding your vulnerabilities and mitigating them. And it's also important to detect an attack as soon as possible. Our focus area is on preventing problems in the supply chain and the capital assets, so vendors and generators.
And where does the capital vulnerability come in?
It comes in the capital assets. So a lot of the generators and substations and control centers are connected to the internet to enable all the new capability. But that's a good thing, but that introduces risk, cyber risk, that allows adversaries a way into the network.
Now, in my reporting, I find two things. Utilities basically tell me, we think we've got it under control and we're working very hard and we're spending a lot of money on cybersecurity. But when I go to the universities, I'm told they're highly vulnerable. What is the truth?
It's a little bit of both. The utility companies are for sure spending a lot of money, and they have some of the best people working on the problem. And they've done a good job securing what I call the IT network. So if you think about printers, laptops, servers, that part has been significantly hardened. But the adversaries always look for the weak link, the part that's neglected. And that's why we're focused on what we think are the neglected areas, which are the supply chain, the vendors, and the capital assets.
What about sleepers buried in code? Things that people don't know are in the code because it was written long ago when there was less sensitivity to security.
Yep, and that's exactly the problem that we solve on the capital asset side. It applies to hardware. You know, if you buy a generator, You know you bought it from Siemens or from ABB, but do you know where the subassemblies came from? Who did they buy the parts from? Are the parts, do they have embedded software? If so, where was that software built? Was it built in a country that's an enemy of the United States?
I've been to many talks on cybersecurity, usually aimed either at utilities or at lower down companies, and people talk about the danger of thumb drives as being infected and people using that on their personal computer, which is connected to a network. The next thing, you've got a huge problem. Is that a case for utilities too?
Thumb drives, less today because people have become aware of the threat from a thumb drive. You know, a thumb drive is just simply installing software from the drive into the environment. It's much like another thing you hear a lot about is phishing. So phishing, think of it as a thumb drive via email. It's another way that's becoming less of a problem as people become aware that it's a problem, and that forces the adversaries to move to another direction.
How does a young man like yourself come to start a company in cybersecurity? How do you get into the cybersecurity business as an entrepreneur?
I got to cybersecurity because I'm an entrepreneur. In my last company, I had 20 million mortgage files on my servers, and they belonged to my clients. And I never felt my clients were doing enough to protect their data while it was with me. Only later did I understand how little I was doing to protect it, but I didn't know any better. And so if the bad guys knew that I had 20 million mortgage files, each one is 300 pages, I probably would have been targeted. I didn't know enough to protect it, and it would have been my client's reputation that was on the line. And so that gave me the idea, and my partner, by the way, I have a co-founder, gave us the idea to start a company to help companies protect themselves from their vendors.
Is cybersecurity a little bit like what one Secretary of Defense said back in the Cold War? We build, they build, we build, they build, as the escalation of arms in the Cold War.
Yes, that's well said. And I would just also describe it as, our world is continuously changing because of technology and getting better, but that also means that there's a different way for our adversaries to attack us, much like you said, an arms race. It's you secure one area, and that just means you've neglected another area.
So there's never going to be a eureka moment where you, Alex, say, I found the solution. If we do this, all utilities and all other systems will be secure.
No, I think it's just like life. You have to keep working and keep getting better and keep outworking the competition.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
for coming on the broadcast. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
That's our show for today. Thank you for coming along. I'm going to drive off, if they let me drive this thing. I want to say vroom, 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 but it's electric. It's silent. I'll see you next week. Cheers.